So how we can say that it's a non-living identity? So it's a living resource. And vast number of microorganism species are there. And this is surprising that of all the microorganism species, only 1% have been are currently being identified. On the other hand, if we talk of plant species, we have identified around 80% of species at the global level. But microorganism, we have identified only 1%. So this is very strange. And microorganisms, because they are in fact a lifeline in the soil, because they can break down certain contaminants. Whatever fertilizers we are adding into the soil, those nutrients are being made available to the plants. It is only because of the microorganisms. My colleagues from soil science, they better know that nitrifying bacteria, ammonification process, it's all being carried out by microorganisms. And apart from that, even whatever organic matter we add into the soil, it is broken down into simpler forms, ultimately converted into humus. That is also because of microorganisms. So better to say that soil is like a woman. It's elegant, it is as well as productive. Imagine that if soil would not have been there, do you think that any production would have been there? Any plants would have been there? If plants would not have been there, then animals would not have been there. Even human being would not have been there. So it's a productive thing. In Indonesia, they say that soil is derived from the word siti, S-I-T-I, and siti means a woman. So that means somewhere, yes, it's just like a woman, it's just like a mother. And if we talk of Guru Granth Sahib, which is the holy book of Sikhs, soil is referred to as mother. It is said that Pavan Guru Pani Pita Mata Tar. Pavan means air. Air is your guru, water is your father, and earth or soil is your mother. So say whether it is in Indonesia, whether it is in India, Guru Granth Sahib, maybe in other countries, other languages, similar things. So there is no doubt now to say that soil is our mother. Soil is like a woman which produces the thing. So we as soil scientists or non-soil scientists or agriculture scientists, we don't have to see the soil as non-living entity. We have always to see, first keep in our mind that we are going to deal with a thing in agriculture that is soil, and it is a living thing. It is our mother. And of course, it is an important component of carbon cycle. It is an important component of water cycle. Because, nature has provided us with so many cycles. You have different nutrient cycles and all that. But the most important being water cycle as well as carbon cycle. So here, soil has a great role to play in these two cycles, maybe other cycles also. But particularly when we talk of soil, so it is, it's a link between hydrosphere, lithosphere, and atmosphere. And this whole of our ecosystem or Mother Earth, it is composed of three components. One is hydrosphere, lithosphere, and atmosphere. And soil is a link between the three. So you can now imagine that how important the soil is. And as I said, that it's a part of the carbon cycle. So soil, it is basically a biogeochemical interface between atmosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere. So it plays a very important role in global carbon cycle. And this is surprising to say that of the total soil organic carbon which is present in the soil all over the world, it is equal to twice the carbon pool present in the atmosphere. So again comes the importance that it is a sink for most of the organic carbon. And this is possible only through soil aggregation. Soil aggregation basically is the nucleus of all mechanism of carbon sequestration. So if we have more stabilized aggregates, then it means a long-term carbon sequestration. And the God Almighty has given us this carbon cycle just to keep a balance between the carbon dioxide present in the atmosphere, which is necessary for the plants. And this is how plants, they capture carbon dioxide so that the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere does not exceed permissible limits. But unfortunately, we have already exceeded that. Then how to define soil health? This is in fact very critical. Many times people say that, okay, if you have very good soil organic carbon, then your soil is okay. Soil is healthy. But the question is it really healthy? I asked my colleagues in PAU Soil Science Department that let us come out, our senior scientists, retired scientists, and have a debate on soil health. Because many times non-soil science people, they feel that soil health means organic carbon. Higher the organic carbon, better is soil health. But I don't agree with that. Then I tried to just go through the literature, and they say that soil health is actually the quality of soil. I have given the reference over here also. And this quality is there, that soil should have such a quality to function as vital living system within ecosystem and land use boundaries. So it has to function as a living system. And it can be living system only when microorganism, microbiodiversity is there. If microbiodiversity is not there, then it will not be a living system. Then we expect the soil quality to be such so as to sustain plant and animal productivity, and similarly to maintain or enhance water and air quality, because air quality is dependent on soil. Just now I talked of carbon dioxide. So atmospheric carbon dioxide level, of course, that will be balanced by the soil organic carbon sequestration capacity of the soil. Then to promote plant and animal health also. Then this is how we say that this determines the health, soil health. Now, what should be the components of soil health? Unfortunately, I should say, soil scientists all over the country, throughout India, I should say, they feel that the most important component of soil health or soil fertility, it is availability of nutrients. These are the chemical reactions. No. Soil health or soil fertility or soil quality, it is a combination of soil physical environment, soil chemical characteristics, and soil microbiodiversity. If one of the component is weak, soil health will be weaker. This is very important to see. Now, unfortunately, again, I should say I apologize from the people who work on soil chemistry or fertility, point of view. They ignore the soil physical environment. But now the younger colleagues, I'm seeing that they are diverting more towards work on soil microbiodiversity. That is very important. But again, soil physical environment is still neglected. And let me give you a best example I ever give to my students in the class as well. In Punjab, we have rice feed system. And because of that rice feed system, what we have observed, and the farmers, they immediately come to us at the time of first irrigation to wheat crop. Generally, it's a heavy irrigation in Punjab. They have ample water and they apply water because of the bigger fields, more than 2-acre fields. And if there is rainfall, even if there is not rainfall, after first irrigation, the wheat crop turns yellow. Then farmer immediately rushes to us, see what has happened to my crop. It has turned yellow. Then we ask him about the history. Is it a rice feed? He says yes. Have you applied urea? He says yes. Urea is there, water is there. Still, that yellowing means that shows typical symptoms of nitrogen deficiency. Though he has applied nitrogen more than what we recommend to him, still nitrogen deficiency. The issue is that there is aeration problem. Due to repeated puddlings during the rice cultivation, a hard layer has been formed at certain depth, that is 15 to 20 centimeter depth. And when he applies heavy irrigation, that water does not immediately go down the soil. It is intercepted by that hard layer. With the result, a temporary waterlogging situation is created. And when saturation or waterlogging is there, that means there is no air in the soil. When air is not there, so wheat roots are not able to breathe. And if roots are not able to breathe, they won't be able to take up water from the soil as well as nutrients, because nutrients are taken in solution form. So this is the best example of soil physical environment, that because of subsurface compaction, the wheat crop turns yellow during first irrigation. And sometimes if rainfall is also there, that yellowing gets prolonged, and we have observed the reduction in productivity of wheat crop to the extent of 7 to 8%. That's a big figure. So this is the best example. I say that soil physical environment is as important as soil chemical environment, as important as soil microbial environment. So all these three, they collectively, we can define soil health or soil fertility. Then what we expect the soil health indicators. First of all, soil health indicators should be easy to measure. Even if I ask my younger colleagues today that how they will measure soil health or how they will measure soil quality. So if you go to literature, you have different, studies. Somebody saying you take 4 properties. Somebody says 10 properties. Somebody identifies that, okay, out of 10, these 3 are most important properties. But the question is, reality is that till date, we have no well-defined universal indicator of soil health. So it should be easy to measure. Then it should measure the changes in soil functions. It's not that, okay, I measured bulk density of the soil. Somebody says, okay, I measured cation exchange capacity of the soil. You have to measure the changes in functions, what the soil is performing. Then encompass chemical, physical, biological properties also. So whatever indicator you define, that indicator should have these 3 types of properties: chemical, biological, as well as physical. And it should be sensitive to variations in climate and management characteristics also. So what I feel is a lot of work needs to be done on soil health indicators, identifying soil health, soil quality indicators. So we cannot say that if organic carbon is good, it is high, soil quality, soil health will be good. At least I don't agree with it. Now, what challenges do we have for degrading soil health? Now in many, I should say, states of India, we have intensive cropping. If I say that in Kashmir, yes, during winter you leave your soils barren, but now people have started sowing, that oilseed crop or other crops during winter also. So otherwise we have intensive cropping, and because of intensive cropping, you have mining of essential crop nutrients. Because you cannot say that, okay, the soil is going to provide you all the nutrients which are being mined every year. So that will not be possible. And this is the result that we are observing micronutrient deficiencies in Punjab. We still, zinc, in Punjab now, zinc is a regular, fertilizer being added to every crop. So still we have 15% soils which are deficient in zinc, then manganese, 11% iron, 3% even copper deficiency is now emerging. Then accelerated soil erosion by water and wind. In Punjab, if I say, then we have Shivaliks region, the most, I should say, fragile region in whole of the Himalayan ecosystem, because soils are very erodible, and it has both on-site effects as well as off-site effects. But off-site effects are much more important. They have affected our big dams, reservoirs. All the major reservoirs, hydroelectric reservoirs in our country, they have been silted up, and in many cases the dead storage is already gone. So we and that is the neglected part. People don't bother about treating the catchment areas, and that's why soil erosion is accelerated, and that silt is ultimately filling up in the dams or reservoirs. Then, as I said, soil physical health degradation is there, which is again neglected, and that is crusting. Crusting is very important. If the farmer has sown, coarse and medium textured soils, he has sown the crop, and immediately rainfall is there, he has to resow it, because a crust is formed, and that crust doesn't allow the seeds to germinate. Compaction, I gave you a best example in Punjab, subsurface compaction. Then again, accelerated soil erosion. This is there, particularly in J&K, I should say. This is to a larger extent. Then again, Shivaliks region, it's in J&K, it's in Himachal Pradesh, in Punjab, and in Haryana also, and some part of Western Uttar Pradesh also. Then we have decline in activity and species diversity of soil biota. Now, in Punjab, these what you call as biofertilizers. Biofertilizers were never responsive. We didn't get any response in biofertilizer. But now again, we have started observing that the soils are responding to some extent, though there is not significant increase in yield, but still the soils are responding, crops are responding to application of biofertilizers. Then I think that why it is so. Maybe that our original microbiodiversity has declined because of continuous addition of fertilizers, then any sort of chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, and all that. So, but my colleagues in the Department of Agronomy, they don't agree, because in long-term experiments they say no, microbiodiversity has not been affected. But I don't agree with these studies. These are isolated studies. But again, my request to younger soil scientists, that please go for this, assessing the microbiodiversity of the soil, because I somewhere feel that it has degraded microorganism, even species diversity has declined. So how, first of all, yeah, really has it declined? I feel, this is my imagination, that it has declined. That's why biofertilizers, they get response. Then the biggest challenge is, as I said, soil. It's very important link between hydrosphere, lithosphere, and atmosphere. And as I said, God has provided us with a carbon cycle, but unfortunately, we have disturbed that carbon cycle. I'll discuss that in detail with you. This is, I tried to, frame this carbon cycle of my own, whatever imagination came to my mind. The plants, everybody, carbon dioxide, we have been teaching the students right from the school level, with the help of chlorophyll, sunshine, or carbon dioxide. Plants, they synthesize their own food and biomass. And if it's it's a forest, that means carbon dioxide being sequestered into the forest areas. And if you are using this forest for furniture making, and at least if we prepare a bed out of wood obtained from a forest, that bed is the best example of carbon sequestration. But anyhow, then again, animals depend on plants. Then human beings, they depend on animals, they depend on plants. Then carnivores depend on other animals. So this is how the cycle goes. When plants die, they become part of the soil. When humans die, they become part of the soil. Animals, they become part of the soil. So again, the soil remains, emitting carbon dioxide and other gases into the atmosphere. Carbon then goes back as carbon dioxide. So this is how this carbon cycle moves. But unfortunately, what has happened, that this is, you see the stars, I have put some stars. These are the points where we have disturbed the cycle. Now we have gone for deforestation. Everybody knows, and in J&K, I have been seeing for the last 50 years. I am 57 plus. I have been seeing that the forests have been degraded like anything. Though I'm not a man of forests, but as a common man, whatever I used to see 30 years, 40 years back, now it's not there. So those are gone. So that means this carbon cycle has been disturbed, because trees, they have vast potential of sequestering carbon dioxide. And when trees are not there, so that means no carbon sequestration. And at the same time, coming over here, now if trees are not there, agriculture is there, because we have changed the land use. We are cutting the trees and using this land for agriculture, and agriculture land going to urbanization. So even if we are going for agriculture, people say that you have a crop over here. Crop is also sequestering carbon dioxide. But then again, this is here the second star, I should say. We in Punjab, we burn all the crop residues like anything, and these go back. So whatever has been sequestered over a period of 4 to 5 months, that is sent back to the atmosphere within, I should say, 4 or 5 or 6 hours. So now, where is carbon sequestration? And then here is another star. You have, this industries emitting, all the carbon dioxide and the other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Then if you have the paddy fields, then methane is also emitted. I should not say that paddy fields should not have been there, but because paddy fields are deliberately kept continuously flooded by the farmers, so there is production of methane gas, and everybody knows that methane is much more hazardous greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So this is how we have disturbed the carbon cycle. And if we have disturbed the carbon cycle, now because these residues which would have gone into the soil, which could have been part of the soil, that is being burnt into the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide. So that means you don't have sufficient organic matter. So if organic matter is not there, microbial population will decline, soil physical environment will decline, it will degrade, even soil chemical properties will also degrade. So this is how the carbon cycle, if it is disturbed, how it affects soil health. So this is our point of concern. Now, if I talk of deforestation, and you see, this is these bars are the area under forest. So if you talk of this starting from 1930s to 2013, you can see a steep decline in this forest cover. And if I say that, they say no, okay, for the last so many years, 20 years, it is stable. But unfortunately, I should say that the forest people, they come out with a very good figures. They count each and every tree, even a tree which is there in my household, that is also being counted by the forest people. They say that this is forest. Actually, a single or 2 or 3 trees doesn't mean that it constitutes a forest. So, but anyhow, they have these figures, but still there is big decline. And at the same time, you can see this red line. So this carbon is also gone because if trees are gone. Canada, I just read just in the morning today that Canada still has 91% forest cover, as existed at the beginning of the European settlement. If Canada can have this, why not India? But perhaps India cannot, yes, because the biggest problem over here is population. You have to make the land available for urbanization, and agriculture land is going under urban areas. Then forest land is going under agriculture areas. And moreover, we have a democracy. We are democrat and we can do anything because we got a license from democracy that you can do any damn thing, nobody is going to answer you. And when this earth says Corona, okay, COVID or Corona, thank you very much for the break you gave me. I hope you understand, because when it was lockdown, the air was so pure. People could see Doladar ranges of mountains from Jalandhar. That was really astonishing. So because air was very pure, the PM content, PM 2.5 or whatever dust you say, particulate matter was not there. But then Corona says, do you think they have understood? So you know that when lockdown was gone, and today it is the same situation which existed before lockdown. So anyhow, as I always say, we are a democratic country. Democracy has given us a license to do any damn thing, to damage anything. Nobody is going to ask you. Sorry to say that. Then, as I said, in Punjab alone, every year 12 to 16 million tons of rice stubbles are burned. And apart from this, some wheat stubbles, partially, those are also burnt. So it releases 12 megatons of carbon dioxide plus other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Despite of availability of very good machinery and all restrictions put by NGT, Supreme Court, Still people are adamant. They say no, we will do this, and then again democracy that leads to unions, and they don't agree. They don't even are concerned that when they burn the residues, it is the first of all their own children in the village, they will be affected. Later on, this smoke will go to the cities, then maybe to the other states. So if we burn rice residue, it leads to 0.57 million tons of nitrogen. It adds to greenhouse gas emissions, as I said, 70% carbon dioxide, 7% carbon monoxide also, even 0.6% methane, and 2.09% of nitrous oxide gases. And moreover, it disturbs the carbon cycle, because otherwise, this God has provided us that all these residues should have become the part of the soil. That no, we don't allow it. So this is simply disturbance of carbon cycle. This is very interesting study I wanted to show. Just a few days back, I got it from one of my students in US. He studied. He studied. These are three states. This is Punjab, this Haryana, and this tiny one over here, Delhi. Now you see the pictures of air pollution and air quality, particularly particulate matter 2.5. So you see in January, February, March, April, and all up to December. Now reddish color means the condition is more severe. That means PM 2.5 is very high. But the question is, this is here. If you see November, this is the most reddish one, and somewhere October, not so much, because this is the month where there is maximum burning of the residues. But then can you see what happens in January? What happens in February? Those January, February seem to be equally reddish as November, or even in April. And just the season is good during August, September, we have yellow. Now the question is, okay, if you say that it is because of the burning that all these three states, these are affected by burning of crop residues, what about January and February? That means apart from burning, there is some other factor, and other factor is on this right side, you can see this traffic. Number of vehicles have increased 2.5 times during a period of 10-11 years. It matters a lot that if you have, say, 5 crores of vehicles, it means within 10 years, the number swelled to 12.5 crores. So that means January, February, or November, here the dew point temperature, it is quite low. Because of that, whatever smoke is there, whether it is from traffic, whether it is from crop residue burning, whether it is from factories, this does not go up, this particulate matter, and those tiny carbon particles, they remain into the air, and it looks us to be a smoggy situation, smog-like situation. But that doesn't mean that I say that, okay, straw burning does not add to the pollution. It adds. But the question is, if it adds, January, February, it's because of the vehicular pollution. So every sector is responsible. And if I say vehicles, that means even I, as an individual, I am also responsible for this type of air pollution. Maybe in my own state, maybe in my neighboring state, or in any other state. Then in the same study, they showed, you see this particulate matter 2.5, it was about 24-hour mean threshold. Mean threshold is 25 micrograms. And you can see over here, this red line, this is this is threshold value. And you can see for all the months, how this is above PM 2.5. Throughout the year, it is above that mean threshold value. So what does this indicate? Residues are burnt only during November or last October, or even April, I should say. Then similarly, you see sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide. These concentrations, if we take as per WHO air quality, 20 micrograms per cubic meter. Again, these are quite above these. Even if you take Central Pollution Control Board standards, that is 80 microgram per cubic meter, even then these are high. So 42 and 50% of the days remained above threshold limit for sulfur dioxide density. So this is, it should not be there that we blame a particular sector for air pollution or disturbance in the carbon cycle. I should say it is every sector, every individual responsible for air pollution. And air pollution means disturbing carbon cycle. So how it helped, it is affected with soil health. So first of all, if I say that one is you are polluting the air by burning the residues, that means it's direct effect on soil health. The residues which should have gone into the soil, those are being burnt. So one is there, you are depriving the soil of any organic matter. Second thing is, when this air becomes polluted, you have different gases over there. And when precipitation is there, that precipitation, when it falls on the surface of Earth, it is acid precipitation. You have accumulation of dissolved poisonous chemicals. The gases, they combine with water, they become acids. And you know, when that acidic water, it enters into the soil, it lowers soil pH. And my soil scientist colleague, they better know that when soil pH gets lowered, the soil chemistry is altered. Nutrient retention capacity decreases because most of the nutrients, they get mobilized, and because of low pH, those nutrients, they are leached out of the root zone. And even heavy metals, they get mobilized. And if heavy metals are mobilized, those metals, heavy metals are taken up by the crop, and then those enter into the, you know, the food chain. Or they may go down into the groundwater, and same water when we drink, those heavy metals, they come into our, you know, bodies in food chain. So whether it is eutrophication, pollution of irrigated soils, it is of course related with the, you know, air pollution. And it is not there that remedy is not there. Generally, the people say, no, farmers, they don't have any other option. We have a wonderful machine, we call this as Happy Seeder. This machine can directly drill wheat crop into the standing stubbles, not only wheat, but other crops. But the problem is, if this is the field, this is the wheat field, farmer is not, his mindset is to see the wheat field as lush green crops. He is not happy to see these stubbles. He feels that somehow these stubbles, they will lower the productivity of the wheat crop, which is not fact. Because after a month or so, these stubbles will be gone and wheat crop will surpass it. But his mindset is that no. He doesn't know my crop will be, you know, my yields will be decreased and all that. So this mindset needs to be changed. And you know, when we directly drill these, you know, any type crop, maybe wheat or other crops, into the standing stubbles, so we have one effect is that stubbles are not incorporated into the soils. Rather, stubbles are retained on the soil surface. So retention means it's a mulch. And everybody knows, agronomists and soil scientists and even other agriculture scientists, colleagues, they know that mulch helps in conserving soil moisture. Mulch helps in suppressing the weeds. So why don't we take use of it? And after taking its use as a mulch during first year, next time it will become part of the soil. It will become part of soil organic matter. So this is, you know, you can get double benefit with one action. So, but again, we have to think over it. And here, this is a study by Dr. Ratan Lal. He showed that how, you know, the productivity loss, it is much more in with low input of organics than with high input. If you have high input of organic into the soil, the loss in productivity is at a very slow rate. But you have, if you have low input into the, you know, soil, then loss in productivity will be at very high rate. And this is what is happening nowadays, because we dump all the farmyard manure near water bodies. We don't use them, we don't compost them to use them as farmyard manure into the soil. We don't, we are burning the residues. We are just ready to put very expensive, you know, fertilizers, chemical fertilizers, but we don't bother about the organics. And this is the situation that our soil productivity is being lost at a very steep rate. Then, as I said, that methane concentration in Punjab at least, and I feel that to some extent in Kashmir soils also, the fields are kept flooded. And here you can see these pink circles. These are for methane production in Punjab. These triangles are for West Bengal. So at least for Punjab and West Bengal, during these months of July, August, September, water is continuously, standing over there, and standing water means there is production of methane because of reduced conditions. So this is how we have to check the methane production. And again, the solution is with us, because PAU has been recommending to the farmers to go for intermittent irrigation. They recommend that just maintain flooding for 2 weeks. After that, go for intermittent irrigation at an interval of 2 days. But then we said that, okay, nowadays, because of the climate change, you never know. Today it will be very high temperature, and next day the temperature may be quite low. It is happening everywhere. So the question is, then we came for this tensiometer. We modified the tensiometer. Earlier tensiometer, my colleagues, non-soil scientist colleagues, this is the basically tensiometer which we teach to our students. So we carried out studies using this tensiometer. But then after we were successful in our results, then it was a problem that farmers, they were not able to read this gauge, to read the value of soil metric potential. Then we removed this gauge, and we came out with a modified version of tensiometer. This is here. Ceramic cup is already, like we have ceramic cup, it is. But instead of single tube system, now we have double tube over here. And outer tube is just to support the cork and this ceramic cup. Otherwise, inner tube, it is connected with the cup. And we recommend to the farmers that, okay, they should look towards this color coding system. If the level of the water in the inner tube, it is within green zone, no need to irrigate. Whether it gets an interval of 3 days, 4 days, maybe 10 days, don't bother. They should not worry. The crop will not be stressed. But once the water goes and enters into the yellow zone, they should irrigate it. But they should never let the water go into the red zone, because then it may hamper the crop yield. So this was the concept of soil metric potential, what we call as negative pressure potential. And in Philippines, they use this pani pipe. Some of my colleagues working for water management might be knowing. This pani pipe was recommended by IRI, International Rice Research Institute, to Philippines, and they particularly recommended it for Bangladesh soils. And they again said that this is just a positive pressure potential. 2/3 of this tube, it is perforated. So it just acts like a piezometer. So if this is negative pressure potential, it works on the principle of positive pressure potential. And they recommend that when water level inside this tube, it goes 15 centimeter below the soil surface. This is the soil or ground surface. When water centimeter goes 50 centimeter below, only then farmers should irrigate the rice crop. But this did not work in our Punjab condition, maybe because our water tables were too deep and our soils were too porous. So this did not work over there. I worked very hard to get it success, but it could not be. So then we recommended this. So what I mean to say, even because of the changing climatic conditions, increasing global temperatures, global warming, still we gave these, but sorry to say, this tensiometer never became popular, though we tried to popularize it at a very large scale. The simple reason is that they have free electricity. They can pump out water at any time. They are not bothered about, fast depleting water table. Submersible pumps are there. They are deepening the submersible motors, getting water out of it. Just 2 days back, I was just, searching the Facebook, and there was one advertisement by a company that they have invented a pump which can extract water from 300 meters. My God, I was so frustrated. Then deliberately I wrote that this is the unfortunate or negative sign of the science. Generally, we used to have debate in the schools. positive aspect of science and negative aspect of science. And really, this is negative aspect of science that we are doing this. And I don't know to what extent we will draw water from the soil. And maybe a time may come that your pumps may not work anymore because water will not be there. So we have to think about it. But here in this point, my concern was of methane production. Because if you go for intermittent irrigation, methane production will not be there. It will be very, very low compared to continuous flooding. Then methane production is also because of food wastage. This is also these are the figures given by Dr. Ratan Lal, a pioneer in carbon dynamics, soil organic carbon dynamics. He says that globally 30 to 50% of food is wasted and uneaten. At global level, 30 to 50% is wasted or uneaten. This is a very big figure. And if we talk in terms of water, total water which we are using to produce 1 billion tons of food, 1/4 of water goes waste because 1/4 of water produces the food which no one eats. And in USA, if we talk of farm to fork landfill, it is 40% food loss. In India, it is visible food loss. Millions of tons of wheat, it is stored under open sky. You come to Punjab, you go to Haryana, you can see millions of tons. It is open storage. Pest attack is there, rodents are there, even weather elements, rainfall, and it rots like anything. So we need to check these losses. We need to improve storage facilities. We need to build new silos. We need to adopt modern post-harvest technologies. I generally say that if you have to give, subsidy to the farmers, the best form of subsidy will be to provide them with storage facilities so that they are able to store their food. Like you go to US, every farmer, they are big farmers and they have big silos. Those are vertically going upwards. Even they are not using much of the space. So if you want to strengthen your farmer, provide him with the facility of storing his produce. Once he has the storage facilities, then he can even negotiate for the prices in the market. Otherwise, he doesn't have any storage space. He fears that his produce will get wasted, it will get rotten down, it will even get stolen. So better you sell it, whatever price he gets out of it. So we have never thought of these building those silos, or now the big companies are coming and they are making silos. Why not individual farmer should have his own silos? So that will serve two purposes. One is food wastage will not be there, and second is that he would be able to negotiate for the prices. So food wastage is second largest source of methane production. So this again adds to disturbance of carbon cycle. Now this if you see carbon sequestration, we have soil aggregate, and this humus, it helps in formation of soil aggregate. Aggregation is your flocculation plus cementation. Flocculation is coming together of soil particles, attracting soil particles, attraction, force of attraction. And cementation is done mainly by organic, materials like humus. So this is how soil aggregate is formed. And if you break down this soil aggregate, then whatever emission will be, it will be carbon dioxide going back. So this is sequestration and emission, two, contrasting processes. So we have to, concentrate mainly on sequestration. And if you see, these are now some studies from my students in PAU. You see the effect of your change of land use. In cultivated, the organic carbon is 0.36. If you go to forest land on the same type of soil, it is 0.51. If you have grassland, again same type of soil, 0.64%. So this is how change in land use affects soil organic carbon. If you are converting forest land into grassland, forest land into cultivated land, or grassland into cultivated land. Now we don't have grasslands, much of the grasslands, because all those grasslands have been converted into cultivated lands. And even if you are abandoning the cultivated lands, or if you are abandoning the forest land after deforestation, this is the situation. Organic carbon decreases to such an extent. And again, these two are the indices of, aggregation. So higher the value means stronger is the aggregate. And you can see the mean weight diameter 1.13, and in cultivated soils 0.36, even in forest soils So in grasslands, particularly in the surface layer, the organic carbon, it's very rich. This is an index of, again, aggregation, but this was based on the concept that when you talk of soil erosion, so then mean weight diameter and geometric mean diameter should not work, because in erosion, the drop size directly breaks the aggregate because of the kinetic energy, which is not there in case of, mean weight diameter. We just shake the soil sample under water. So that effect is not there, that effect of rainfall. So then we use this single raindrop technique in the laboratory, and then try to disperse this aggregate, and then counting the number of aggregates, we devise this index. The SI means stability index based on SRT, single raindrop technique. So because again, the trend is same, 0.2 to 0.04. So lower value of this index means the aggregates are very, very weak. Then again, the important thing, as I said, that aggregates are very important in sequestering carbon in the soil. What we did, that we tried to find out the soil organic carbon in the bulk soil and organic carbon in aggregates. And in all the cases, whether it is in eroded, agriculture, forest land, the organic carbon in the aggregate was higher than the organic carbon in the bulk. This was very interesting study. It was published, I think, in Soil, Land Degradation and Development. That's very high impact factor journal. Then same is the situation in 15 to 30 centimeter layer. Rather, it is much more important in the 15 to 30 centimeter layer. So this shows that how important it is to maintain the aggregation of the soil. That is why now global level, and Dr. Ratan Lal has been constantly impressing upon not to till the soil. So that if you don't till the soil, you are not actually breaking down the aggregates. Otherwise, breaking down aggregate means you are exposing the stored, sequestered organic carbon to the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide, because the microbes, they eat upon it and carbon dioxide gets into the atmosphere. The other important thing is, when we go for carbon studies, we generally concentrate on 0 to 15 or 15 to 30 centimeters. But the issue is, carbon sequestered in the lower layers is much more important. If you see the carbon, this blue figure, light blue, sky blue, this is for 0 to 15. So again, in 15 to 30, you see, of the total 0 to 100, 93% is present in 15 to 100 centimeter profile. Similarly, in all the land uses, though this difference decreases in grasslands, because as I said, in grasslands, the roots are mainly concentrated. They form a net, they form a sort of mat at the surface. That's why organic carbon in 0 to 15 is around 42% compared to just 48% in 15 to 100 centimeters zone. So this is again very important. We need to concentrate on the lower levels also, particularly when you have cultivated and forest lands. So this is again in different layers. You sequestered 0 to 15, 5.70 megatons, megagrams per hectare, and 4 times higher in 15 to 100, that is 22.4. Same is the situation, but in grassland, strangely, the carbon sequestered in the surface layer was much more than in the subsurface layers. Then, as this is very clear that the more the organic carbon, more will be the water retention capacity. So at a particular matrix section, if you see the soils which are under grasslands, they are able to hold more water at a particular than forest land, than agriculture, and it was least in eroded lands. So wherever there will be erosion, the water retention capacity of the soil, that will be very, very low. And this is the relation between soil organic carbon and plant available water. So the beauty is that carbon cycle just is not a carbon cycle. Carbon cycle also affects water cycle, and water cycle affects carbon cycle. This is a simple example over here, that availability of this water to the plants, it's a direct function of organic carbon. Then even erodibility value, what we call as K value. So this erodibility value, this is also affected by different land uses, and simply because organic carbon differences are there. So you can see over here, organic carbon being lowest in eroded soils, erodibility is highest. And root mass density, that's very important. It is lowest in eroded soils. And this root mass density is highest in pasture lands, even higher than, forest lands. So it is because of root mass density, it is because of soil organic carbon that your soil erodibility is, lower in case of pasture lands or forest lands than in agriculture and eroded lands. Similarly, this is then again, whatever I was talking of land use, coming to cropping system. In cropping system also, it is very important to go for addition of organics. So this is simple an example of organic and inorganic. And you see where you have organic, see the value of mean weight diameter. This in rice wheat system 0.52. And if you have only nitrogen added into it, 0.15. If you add P, 0.24. If you add K also, 0.31. So that means balanced fertilization is also important, and organics are also. But even if you are adding balanced in organic fertilizers, those are still not comparable to the organics alone. So this is very important. Same is the situation in maize wheat. Then bulk density is also affected. Of course, bulk density gets affected due to organic carbon. And if we see soil organic carbon pools and soil organic sequestration, so you can see that where you have added farmyard manure, the soils sequester 310 tons per hectare of more carbon than than this control, where you do not, where we have not added any, fertilizer, inorganic or organic. Similarly, when nitrogen alone, 130. When N and P, 190. So when all the three nutrients are there, 260. So this is very interesting study in all the three cases. This is published in Soil and Tillage Research. And this study, I should say, done by one of your own colleagues, Dr. Rehana Rasool. This is her PhD work, wonderful work she had done. And she published, I think, more than 5 publications in international journals with very high impact factor. Out of these, 3 publications were in soil and tillage research. I don't know whether Rehana is listening to me or not, but thanks, Rehana, wonderful work done by you. Then climate change in terms of minimum temperature. Climate change, yes, it has been, even in J&K, particularly in Kashmir also. When I used to live over there, we never had a fan, but nowadays people have air conditioners in Kashmir also. That is strange enough. So yes, minimum temperature rise is very conspicuous in Punjab, both during Kharif season and Rabi season. And if minimum temperature rise is there, you can see the effect on biomass. You can see the effect on, what you call as decomposition of organic carbon also. So yes, this is going to affect. And when it rains, it says that when it rains, it pours. And when it pours, you have very high runoff rate because intensity of rain is very high. Infiltration rate of the soil is low. So when intensity, the rate at which water falls over the surface, it exceeds the rate at which water enters into the soil. You can see this is very good, analysis done by some colleagues during 1901 to 1910. This decade, this dark reddish portion, this was the extreme rainfall. That means more than 244 millimeter. So this, the rest was heavy rainfall. So this reddish portion is increasing. You can see over the last, after 70s, we have no more extreme rainfall. And in Punjab, Haryana, we are observing that the rainfall, it happens just for 15, 20 more, or just half an hour. Otherwise, in earlier times, we used to have continuous, very low intensity rain, 2 days, 3 days, and that was better because the intensity was lower than the infiltration rate. So most of this rain used to infiltrate into the soil and recharge the groundwater. But now most of it goes as runoff. And when it runs over the surface of the soil, it erodes, it carries soil organic carbon along with it, along with silt particles. So that is again, point of disturbance of carbon cycle. So this should be, I think, the last slide, that now we have to reverse it. Can we? Can we? So if it would not have been lockdown situation earlier, I should have said, no, we cannot reverse it. But lockdown, because of the lockdown, because of COVID-19, I should say, God Almighty gave us a lesson to learn that you can reverse. Still, there is time. You must change yourself. You can reverse disturb carbon cycle. You can reverse disturb water cycle. अभी भी कुछ नहीं बिगड़ा है, but now we have to see. So how we can do it? So one thing is very clear, that most soils of agro ecosystem, they have lost 20 to 25% of antecedent soil organic carbon pool. And this is mainly because of land mismanagement, land misuse. Simply land misuse means you are converting forest land to agriculture, agriculture land to urbanization. Then loss is more in soils managed by extractive farming than science-based agriculture. And loss is more in soils of coarse than fine texture. Could be that fine textured soils, they capture the aggregates are much more strong, so the losses are less. And loss is more in tropical than in temperate climates. But I don't know, you have a temperate climate. I'm not sure what is happening over there. But of course, in tropical, subtropical climates, the loss is there. Then, in Punjab, the strange thing is that organic carbon in our soils is increasing over the time. And the main reason behind that is, the rice cultivation. Most of the time, the rice fields, they remain flooded. So, under reduced condition, microbial activity is less. So we have accumulation of organic carbon, but people say that, no, our soil is getting better day by day. I don't agree with that. Anyhow, so depleted soils and biotic carbon pools can be restored by land use and management system, leading to carbon sequestration. That could be through conservation agriculture. Now people are talking about, people are practicing it. So this has to be a part of the system, conservation agriculture. We cannot do without it now. Then integrated nutrient management is most important. You have to use compost, manure, even biological nitrogen fixation, mycorrhizal, bacteria, fungi. So it should be because I don't believe in organic farming. The reason being, you cannot feed billions by growing through organic farming. So you have to go for, the answer is integrated nutrient management. Even the answer is integrated pest management also, or even integrated water management also. Anyhow, then use of biochar, because we need to convert crop residues into biochar. But again, we have to be very cautious that we need not prepare the biochar simply by crude methods, burning it in open in the absence of oxygen, and then saying that we have converted it into biochar. Because ultimately, if you burn it in the open, you are releasing carbon monoxide into the atmosphere. That is a more poisonous gas, So scientifically, we produce biochar out of residues and then use that biochar in the soil. We need a lot of studies in this direction. So I don't think that there are sufficient studies to say that after how many years the biochar will get decomposed, what effect it will have on soil, physical, chemical, biological properties, that needs to be seen. Then soil quality and productivity of degraded, desertified soils can be improved by enhancing, again, soil organic carbon pool. So carbon dioxide in soils, if we do it, it can mitigate climate change through drawdown of, because you are sequestering carbon and storing it into the soil. So that is, if we could do it by reducing at least 50 ppm over the next century, then we can mitigate the climate change effect. But the question is, are we ready to do that? That's a big question. For harnessing the benefits of carbon sequestration in soils, we need to incentivize the farmers. Because if you ask the farmer, don't do this, he will say, why? I'm going to do this. This is profitable to me. So we have to sensibly see that if we have, because if you cannot stop a person from driving a car, A car meant for one person, meant for 5 persons, is driven by one person, is occupied by one person. You cannot stop him. He will say, "This is my car. I'm spending on petrol. Who are you to say me?" Until and unless you incentivize him. Same is true with the farmer. So we cannot, force the things on him. We need to incentivize him, because this is very important. We reverse our disturbed carbon cycle, not only for our own health, but for the health of the soil. And when it is health of the soil, it means health of our animals, health of human beings. So everything is dependent on this soil, because it is Mother Earth. So it is a soil. Don't treat it like dirt. And when we say it is soil, it is our mother. So thanks a lot